Hello and welcome to another edition of the DES podcast. And today, this edition I decided to call You're Not Going Crazy, it's Perimenopause. Yes, menopause and perimenopause are really misunderstood by our society, and there's not really a lot of places that we can go for support when we enter this stage. We're not really taught about it. Things are starting to get better now in the last few years, which is just wonderful. But when I was growing up, we didn't know anything about this other than you get hot flushes. And that was it. There are a lot of negative connotations that are given to this stage of life, and it's really a stage of life that is very misunderstood. But an interesting fact about it is that our bodies are actually changing. Our bodies and our brains are changing. So just like the heat in our bodies that we're getting fired up, our brains are also becoming fired up, and they're starting to work in different ways. If you think about it, your computer, when it needs to reboot, it will have that time when it needs to take really, really long to shut down, and then really, really long to come back online again. So this is basically what we're doing. We're shutting down the old system and then building in the new system. So of course we're going to feel tired, we're going to feel exhausted. And this is my urge to you to really give yourself that space, give yourself that time, rest, because you're really going to need it. Your body is basically rebuilding parts of itself. So how wonderful and miraculous is that? And support her as much as you can. If you do have the luxury of not having to put on an alarm clock, then do that. Just allow your body to sleep as long as it needs to and wake when she needs to, because this is really key during this time. Now, the reason I call this podcast is You're Not Going Crazy. It's because at times you feel like you're going crazy. As these hormones are shooting and firing and misfiring, you'll have a sudden surge of rage. And you might lash out at someone, but this is your invitation to just hold that, to just be with that, and you will see like a wave, it passes. Another one is you might just feel sudden nausea. Out of nowhere, just feel nauseous. Again, this wave will pass. And then the third one is just such sadness, like you'll feel this, someone's punched you in the gut, and you'll just be like, I don't want to be here anymore. And that is also a wave that is passing. And the interesting thing that I've found with menopause, and the reason that it is so intelligent and teaching us, and I wish we could live our lives backwards because of this intelligence that it gives us, is once you feel that sadness, just out of nowhere, you'll be like, oh, I wonder if this is a wave. And then shortly after that, the hot flush comes. This is my experience. Or that anger, that burst of anger. Shortly after that, the hot flush comes. So you can see how it's connected to something else. And all emotions are simply energy in motion. And in this stage, it's really heightened, but in a beautiful way connected to that hot flush for me, that I was able to see that it is an emotion and that it is moving through me, because it would come, it would move through, and then the hot flush would follow shortly after. And so you don't need to be in menopause to be able to feel this, to experience it, that emotions are simply energy in motion. And so if we can, in our everyday life, if you're a man, if you're a woman, before menopause, be able to just view your emotions, watch them, and you'll see them move like a wave through you, and you'll see that they are energy in motion. If you can just hold that space for them, just hold that space and not react. And this is really important in menopause, because you do want to react. You have all this pent-up rage of years of being a woman, of living in this patriarchal system, and suddenly it's wanting to find its voice. So you may be lashing out, but you may be lashing out at those people closest to you, the ones that you love, and saying something that you will later regret. So it is good to ride the wave, let it pass, but let that anger help you to bring up those things so you can speak your truth, but in a loving, kind way once that has passed through you. So let it bring you the wisdom, and use your loving kindness to share your truth. So sparked by these hormonal changes, there's a switch that goes on in your brain that signals these temporal lobes of the brain, and those are the sections that are associated with intuition. In menopause, our intuition is switched on, it lights up. So our awareness goes from without to that, from that external world, and it turns to within, to our internal world. And in shamanism, women could not be shamans until they were postmenopausal. because they say that when the blood stops running out, the blood is inside and all that wisdom is held inside. So your intuition is switched on. So they were actually becoming shamans then in those years, the wise old crones. This awareness from the outer world to the inner world is also your call, your invitation to self-actualize, to find out who you really are. And how you experience this very largely depends on how willing you are to go deep and to examine all the parts of your life. So jobs may change, relationships may change, friendships may change. Just the way that you live your life may change. If I look at myself, I was working in corporates, busy life, working hard, partying hard, all of those things, consuming, I was big into buying lots of stuff I didn't need, and this has flipped for me. I'm now living a very simple life. I'm out of corporates, I'm doing this work now, and it's really my true calling coming home to myself, which was coming in, working with the divine feminine, getting in touch with my body, getting in touch with life, with nature, and helping to guide others to the same. As I said, we're dealing at this stage with a lot of anger. We're also dealing with grief. There is a grieving that needs to happen. This is the grieving of perhaps career opportunities you never took, travel opportunities you never took, maybe children that you never had, or relationships that you never pursued, or that you ended. All of these things are going to come up. You're going to be turning over digging up the roots of every part of your life and thinking, was that the right decision? So it can be very sad. You're going to be grieving, and this grief is valid. So give yourself that space to grieve. Give yourself that time to just grieve those things. They're very, very real. Allowing you to look at them, grieve them, and then move on. Because everything that you did was perfect as it should have been to get you to where you are now. And life is just a journey. We are just here to journey through it and learn our lessons. So whether you chose path A or B, it still was the lesson that you were eventually going to get to path C. So it can feel hard when we're having all of these feelings, but it is good to remember that we're okay. We're okay where we are. And there's nowhere that we need to get to. We just have to live. We just have to live our life in authenticity and as much joy as we can, because that is the light that we bring into the world. So one of the big ones as well that you're going to feel is that sadness for your wasted youth. Like, you look back at those photos from 10 years ago and go, oh, I was so critical of myself, but look how beautiful I was. Things like that. And when you were strong and healthy, why didn't you do more things? Although you can still be strong and healthy now. And yes, so wasted youth is going to be something that's really going to be sad. Also, you're not noticed. So if you were somebody that, you would notice people's gazes on you, that doesn't happen anymore. So there's also a sadness in that, feeling like you've lost something. But that's just this outer surface of looks. And society has been trained not to notice, women over a certain age. So that's just the surface area of looks. But remember to go in within. Focus on all that wisdom, all that knowledge that you have inside. And if anybody was looking at you before because you maybe looked pretty or you were dressed nice, that was surface. That wasn't the real you. And if you can really get in touch with the real you, that bright, shining brilliance, that fire, that power of who you are like a magnet. And everybody will be looking at you and wanting to come to you, wanting to hug you or just be in your energy. And it's got nothing to do with sexual attraction or your looks, but it's just your energy. And you are so in your power and you're so strong. You're so magnetic. And that is the truth of who you are. Whereas we taught youthfulness and beauty are where it's at. But that's not. And menopause eventually does teach us that after we get through that grieving period. So this is my invitation to you to feel, to grieve, to be angry, feel all those emotions. This is a very transformative phase of your life. And to step into the next phase, you need to feel all those things so that you can drop that baggage and come through to the other side lighter and ready for this beautiful phase of life that is waiting for you. Of course, when we have this anger and we suppress it as we have been doing all these years of our lives when we were the maiden and the mother. Now we are stepping into the enchantress and the crone, which is perimenopause, enchantress, and crone, menopause. So in those stages of the maiden and the mother, when we were still sweet and innocent and mothers, society was always teaching us to press down those emotions, always be happy, always smile. So there's maybe a lot of anger there, and that we can't carry on suppressing it. This leads to a lot of health issues, which I speak about in other snippets of mine. So what we need to do is find healthy expressions for those anger, perhaps journaling, dancing, art. Women's circles are a great place for these. So find healthy places to express these, to get this anger out, so that you don't have these blocked emotions, so that you don't have a mental or physical dis-ease at a later stage. Okay, so I hope that didn't scare you off. I hope you are excited and prepared for this phase of life. To be stepping into your wisdom and your power, your truth, and to not be shy or afraid or follow what society says that you're worthless, because no, you are worth so much more now. You are stepping into that shaman wisdom, intuition that you were born for. And just like a little girl turns from a little girl into a teenager and all her hormones go wild, so you are now doing the opposite. You are going from that bleeding years to the non-bleeding years. Your hormones are going wild, but it's just as beautiful, it's just as valid as when a little girl becomes a woman. You are becoming that wise crone, that sage. Walk tall, walk with pride, and own your truth and your power. I love you.